The Kansas Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired was founded in 1920. The Kansas Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired is celebrating its 100th anniversary. We have captured the life stories of some of our members, talking about the barriers they have had to face in terms both of discrimination and in employment situations.
Hi, this is Ann Byington. I'm a retired rehab teacher from Topeka, Kansas, and I unfortunately in my life have experienced many situations of discrimination, but I'm going to speak about one. One day when I was working in Lawrence, at the time my husband was working in Lawrence, we decided to meet and have lunch together. At that time I had a golden retriever guide dog named Lloyd, and he was a really pretty dog. He had curly hair. People would stop me on the street and ask if I did his hair, and I said, of course, every night I do his hair. But I didn't. He was just a really curly dog. My driver let me out at, I think the place was called the Aztec, but I can't remember exactly. It was in downtown Lawrence, Mexican restaurant, and she went somewhere else because she didn't eat with me very often. And I waited for Michael and one of our friends, and they were late. Darn it. So I'm standing in the back of the restaurant with my dog, and this guy comes up to me and says, you gotta get your dog out of here. And I start opening my wallet to get out my white cane law copy, and he said, I don't want to see that, you just gotta leave. And I said, I can't leave, I'm waiting for my husband, and it's hot outside, I don't have a vehicle to get into, I'm gonna stay right here, I'm not gonna bother your customers, and we'd like to eat lunch with you. And he said, well, you can't. And he left. He didn't even tell me he was leaving. I was talking to the air, as we often do sometimes when people leave without telling us. So finally Michael and his friend, our friend, got there, and I said, I think we need to call the police because these people are refusing me service because of Lloyd, my guide dog. So we did, and that was before the days of cell phone. This was in the 80s. I don't remember what year exactly, but I got Lloyd in 81. So at any rate, we called the police because I couldn't get the management to look at my white cane law ID. It had a picture of my dog, the school he was trained at, and a copy of the white cane law on it. And the police came, and I handed the policeman the law, and I said, these people won't even read this, and they're refusing me service. And he looked at it and he said, well, I'll take it back and talk to him. So he did, and he came back and he said, you're right, they don't want you in here, so you need to go get lunch somewhere else. You can press charges if you'd like. And I said, well, I definitely would like to, realizing that I might put myself in quite a bit of displeasure by my state employer, which at that time was Services for the Blind. So we left, and several customers walked out with us. They saw what was going on and didn't like it either. We filed charges with the city attorney, and then when I got home, I called the director of Services for the Blind and said, I want to warn you that we're going to get some press because I was denied service at a restaurant because of my dog, and we are filing charges against the restaurant owner. And he said, okay, I'm forewarned. And at that time, one of my clients contacted the newspaper. This made the AP wire all over the state. And one of my clients called me and he said, I can testify for you that your dog did not have mange, which they accused him of having. And he was very clean. He'd been in my home, and I know that, this is crazy. So my mother got a call from the newspaper at home, and they asked her about it, and she said, well, she hasn't told me anything about it, but she said, if she says there's a problem, there's a problem. Which I was very proud of my mother for saying that, because my parents really never got involved with my using a dog. They understood why I wanted one, but they really never saw me work a dog because there's not much to do in Beloit, Kansas, and the streets aren't they don't have good sidewalks, and there wasn't any reason for me to go walking around much there. So at any rate, we came up for a trial. And at the time, I was supposed to go to a workshop that the state was providing us training with attorneys Kemp and Yen, who had been involved in the Rehab Act of getting the Rehab Act implemented in Kansas and Again, the state was not happy that I was missing part of this training because I was supposed to be there. And I'd hired a driver to take me to Lawrence to testify, and I got a call about an hour before I was supposed to leave saying, this guy settled out of court, he's agreed to community service, and I don't think they fined him. I think they just set him up for so many hours.
Okay.
How much? Do you remember?
I think it was $40.
I don't care whether they cared or not because I knew I was right. At any rate, after that happened, we had a friend who wanted to have her dog with her as she helped another vendor of our friends who worked in the federal building. And at that time, the feds had really, really weird rules about guide dogs in the federal building, in the vending facilities. They said you had to have the dog in a kennel, you had to have food and water nearby, they had to be able to see their owner, and yada, 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 which was just stupid. It was just outrageous. So she went to Bob Steffen, who was our Attorney General at the time, and who was a friend of Debbie, who ran the facility in the federal building. And he said, well, I think state law supersedes federal law in this case. And if the feds come after us, I guess we'll just have to call out the National Guard and get this resolved. He was pretty funny about it. But it worked. They didn't have to call out the National Guard because the feds backed down and acknowledged that their regulations were quite arbitrary and really pretty silly. And so I don't know, I'm pretty sure they've changed them since then, but the point I'm making is our case law helped another blind person win a dispute about guide dog access. I have to say that in the, 40-some years that I've worked with a dog, that hasn't happened nearly as often lately because there are a lot more service dogs out there and guide dogs too. And the fact that we have a school in Kansas has helped get that training available locally, and it also has made guide and service dogs a lot more visible in the state, and of course we have done a lot more educating in the state. The other point I would make is we're not finished yet because the Lyft and Uber companies in various cities across the country have said we are not taking blind people with guide dogs. We don't have to haul guide dogs if we don't want to because we're individual contractors. So the rules, the white cane laws don't apply. Well, they've been sued by a couple of people. And even those who allege that dogs are unclean, they're Muslim or they're of some other religious persuasion that says that they don't like dogs, they don't want to be around dogs, they still have to comply with the federal law, which says that guide and service dogs are allowed on public transportation and that these vehicles, whether they're contracted or not, are public transportation. The right of access has always been the issue for guide and service dog users. And since service dog users are becoming more and more common, there aren't, a lot of people are wanting to take their dogs places and they go online and buy a cape or a harness or something that says this is a service dog, even when it's a pet. And so it's becoming a lot harder to control the dog population in public, and it's become a lot harder to prove that your dog is a legitimate service dog. Now, us blind folks don't have that problem because all I got to do is let go of my dog's harness and walk somewhere and people can tell that I have a problem. But with other disability groups, it's a little bit more challenging. I'm happy to say that my situation was resolved positively and it helped another person and maybe other people that I don't even know about. So that's my story, and thank you very much for the opportunity to share it with you.
Learn more about KABVI at KABVI.com.